As much as the suspension of Jimmy Kimmel brings up questions of free speech and the administration's response to critics, it is also a story, we mentioned it before, about money, power, and politics, my favorite topic. The nightcap is still here. Dan, Axios is calling what's happening right now as a MAGA makeover in media. The super wealthy, more conservatives are buying up some of the biggest media and social media properties out there. I read this week a line that said, while Democrats are trying to go viral, Republicans are buying social media platforms.
Right. Well, I mean, if you go back and look 10 years, I mean, it was really left-leaning folks that owned all the major, media platforms and then, take it to social media. I mean, that was the case, right?
Hold on. Think about during the Obama administration.
Twitter.
I felt like Sheryl Sandberg was going to be the president 4 years later. Yeah, I felt like the White House door was open and Facebook was cartwheeling in the door.
Well, Fox, though, lords over everything, right? So when you think about what they've been able to accomplish over the last 20-some years, and they put this, coalition together for all intents and purposes, and then they really figured out social media at some point, too, just the way that, the Obama administration or the campaign did, going back to 2007. But your question is what's happening right now? Part of it has to do with the media landscape. I don't need to tell you about it. I mean, it is really getting fractured in many, many different ways. A lot of these, networks that relied on the cable bundle, they've had a really hard time. They all started streaming networks that all started losing a lot of money. Now they're kind of getting rebundled, and some of these folks backed by some real money. Larry Ellison, one of the richest men in the world. He's the founder of Oracle. He might be the soon owner of TikTok. His son is buying up media networks because he has the ability to do so, because these networks are valued at things that no one thought they would be 10, 15 years ago. So it's just this sort of dynamic right now where people have figured out these are bad businesses for the most part, and then they try to do something else, and they ended up being worse businesses. So we'll see how it all shakes out. I just think if you combine the attention that folks have relative to social media, my kids don't know how to turn a TV on, okay? Sure. They don't, appointment viewing and news, they're getting it from social networks right now. So the ground has been moving below the media's feet. They just started to figure it out. And now some of these folks like Elon Musk, first, a few years ago, they can go in and they can use this funny money that they've made off of this zero interest rate environment right up until we had, that sort of inflation post-COVID thing, and they made a lot of money. And now they can buy whatever they want in the media.
In our nation's history, though, we have seen media companies owned by conservatives and liberals. Is this time different?
Well, I mean, I think so, because one, we've traditionally had an idea that, a media company was supposed to have a certain kind of public good element to it. I'm not sure that we have that sense. And I don't want to kind of go back to the halcyon days of before and, the Grahams at the Washington Post and so on. I don't want to compare everything to that, but I do think that we're in a different kind of landscape. That said, they are buying up properties that, to your point, that don't have the kind of weight that they once did. And nature hates a vacuum. Simply taking up, potentially CNN or taking up CBS News and so on doesn't mean that there aren't going to be people who look at what the Trump administration is doing and say, these people are nuts, or these people are fascists, or these people are whatever it is that they think. And there will be an audience that needs to be served in that way. And someone will, at least if this system operates in any kind of sensible way, someone will capitalize.
I mean, it may have to be it will be online and won't be a linear television.
But the courts also have a role in this, right? We just saw a federal judge in Florida dismiss the president's $15 billion lawsuit against New York Times. I completely understand why lots of businesses capitulate or fold, because when you are hit with even the threat of a $15 billion lawsuit, lots of businesses would say, you know what, I'd rather be in business than out of business. I'll fold a little if I have to. But aren't the courts showing us if you actually fight back, he is either forced to or often backs down?
Sure, but in 30 to 120 business days, there's a limit, I think, in terms of how much of a bulwark they can be for the velocity of actions the administration is taking. And the other thing I think is a tougher thing to follow, and I struggle with as someone who likes to break news, and I'm a print guy, and obviously those are not super long for this world.
Or maybe not, or maybe it's exactly where we're all headed.
Yeah, well, here's the thing, everyone who has a podcast or the old aggregation networks, all the iterations of those, they still depend on people finding new information and putting it into that ecosystem. And if that goes away, they're going to have a real hard time coming up with their programming. And, take a look at the influence of the Joe Rogan show. Yeah, I mean, his personality is magnetic. He's got the producer Jamie guy to look up anything and basically uses him as like a human Google machine. But ultimately, they need like real news clips to power that and to have the breakout clips and for all the things that come down the food chain from that.
Yes, and then what happens?
Which is why at Columbia Journalism School, our motto is reporting begins here. That's exactly it. Everything else is downstream.
Okay, but whether it's at Columbia Journalism or at NBC or MSNBC, before anything comes out the door, it goes through a rigorous legal and standards process. Right. And so if that flies out the window and these news hubs are now run by vigilante news organizations where there is no standards, then the clips that Joe Rogan and others are pulling are going to be coming from a source of nonsense.
Right, and then that's where I think the nature of horse of vacuum, and that's where I think that fact-based. I mean, I think the world is ready for can we put the opinions to the side and can we
make boring sexy again?
Yeah, I mean, and maybe it's even print, but I think that is that either it's that or the end.
Yeah, but we can make the point that some of the most influential voices now, they're on YouTube, they're on Twitter. You think about Tucker Carlson, he gets bounced and he's probably making more money there. He probably has a much bigger audience on YouTube, so there's lots of opportunity for big voices. I'm Jimmy Kimmel. I'm calling up Sundar or the CEO of YouTube, or say, Elon, are you really a free speech absolutist? Like, let's do this thing.
That didn't work out. Don Lemon, right? Exactly.
Can we just talk about TikTok for a moment? If we're talking about these platforms, let's talk about TikTok. Because you literally have the president of the United States on the phone this week talking to China, not talking about a trade deal, talking about the deal terms of a TikTok purchase. Are we somehow forgetting that in an overwhelmingly bipartisan way, which very rarely happens, Congress voted, what was it now, 2, maybe 3 years ago, that TikTok was a national security threat. Mm-hmm. Has that flown out the window? And at this point, we're just like, who gets to be the purchaser?
So, I mean, I don't want to kind of set that aside.
Has Congress lost their voice on this?
I don't want to set that aside, but I think that what people, and this is not to say that it wasn't a national security threat, but there were plenty of other national security threats. That TikTok became the kind of focal center for problems that were endemic in social media and endemic in the internet. And so there were lots of ways that people were worried about TikTok being used to identify the location of people who were in the military. Well, there were lots of other apps that people could have used to do that same thing. And so that's not to say that it's good at all for the president to be involved in these negotiations. I just think that, and here's the kind of optimistic thing here, our problem is so much bigger than that, that actually...
Well, not really. The fact that this is the center point of this huge negotiation, we have a trade war. Make no mistake about it. And China is our biggest adversary. We rely on them a great deal for these rare earth materials, for magnets. These all go into our defense apparatus, right? So when you think about TikTok that sits in the middle here, why is this a negotiating point? Why is this the first negotiating point in this discussion? And then when you think about it, you know what comes next? NVIDIA. This is a company, the largest market cap company in the world, $4.4 trillion. They own the high-end graphics chip market. That is the thing that's powering AI. And so when we think about where our next battles are won, it's going to be like this, this AI thing, right? And so we have to make a decision. Do we want to allow our best technology be sold into China? Do we allow them to actually do a digital Belt and Road all over the world as we push our allies away from us? And I think that the fact that TikTok is basically a little bit of a distraction sort of thing, And the president said to Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, you can sell your best technology to China, but I'm going to take a 15% VIG on the way out, right? Like, that's really what happened here. And so it really is, it's a national security issue that is being, supplanted by the fact that this guy wants to make some bucks off this thing.
Yes, because guess what? Whether it's the president or his commerce secretary, that's literally what their business history is, right? Neither of them have a history in foreign policy, not in national security. Howard Lutnick's a broker's broker. Taking a VIG out of the middle is what made him a rich man. And he's taking that skill set to the White House. So national security isn't even on the table. We're the ones who are going to pay the price.
Trump's calling it like a fee plus for the TikTok deal. And I asked the White House, I'm like, what does that mean? Like, to use the word vig might be the closest thing to it.